Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Not Your Typical Book Club. Today, Rami and I have the pleasure of going through Chris Voss's book, Never Split the Difference. I think it's fair to say that we learned a lot on this book in negotiating in our day-to-day life and also with our business. One thing that we realized with this book is that everything's a negotiation. Well, I realized anyway.
Yeah.
Whether you're negotiating with your kids on when to go to bed, or you're negotiating a commission with a client, or whatever else, you're always negotiating. Chris Voss has a lot of credibility for a guy that started with nothing in this industry. He is widely recognized as one of the best negotiating expert in the world. At one point, he was actually the lead negotiating expert for counter-terrorists in the whole world internationally. He's a founder of Black Swan, a company that advises Fortune 500 CEOs on negotiating tactics for their business and lives in general. But also, he lectures for Harvard, he lectures for Cambridge, he lectures for a bunch of universities. This guy is very sought after, and for good reason.
He's a superstar.
He's a superstar,
Yeah.
exactly.
And
Yeah.
our friends Chris and Marty are currently in Niagara Falls right now, and they have met with Chris Voss at one of their events, and hopefully we can get a signed copy. I asked for it.
Well, if he sees what we're doing now, why not do it, right?
Yeah, for sure.
What are the odds, though? We decide to do his book, and then bang, these two go and meet him.
Yeah, they're also meeting with Seth Godin. We've done a couple of his books as well, and that's a great event. We're missing out for sure.
Yes. I was planning on going for a second, then I chose another event, and now I clearly regret it. So, yeah.
So, I mean, this book starts with Mr. Voss going to Harvard to take a negotiation class, which is part of the Harvard Negotiation Research Project. And Robert Nukin, which is the director of the Harvard Negotiation Research Project, brings him in and then asks him a question or wants him to negotiate a situation where his son, so Mr. Voss's son, is being held at gunpoint or at knife point or whatever it was, and then Mr. Voss had to negotiate. So it was like a classic FBI agent versus a Harvard expert negotiator.
Yeah, and he was put on the spot too.
Yes.
Like he didn't
Yeah.
know. It was kind of a trap. They got him in there, and he just thought it was having a meeting, and then bang,
Yeah.
your son is held at gunpoint. We need $1 million.
Yeah. And Mr. Nukin is no joke. He's obviously he's part of the Harvard Law School, and he's also the author for the Bargaining with the Devil book. It's called Bargaining with the Devil: When to Negotiate, When to Fight. And so, essentially, the way Mr. Voss won that negotiation was through open-ended questions, right? So the son was being held at gunpoint. Give us $1 million to release your son. And what became a trademark, we see this in movies all the time, an essential protocol with the FBI, he would ask open-ended questions like, well, how do you want me to get you $1 million? Or things like, how do I know that my son is not alive? My son is not dead yet, right? So that's how the book opens up. And, he was talking about how negotiations begin with a simple premise that humans want to be accepted and understood.
Yes, and I think that was the issue before. Like in the 1970s, the FBI had to change what they were doing because a lot of hostages were actually dying.
Yeah, well,
they were taught that they were dealing with rational people. So all the scripts that they had was to try to, what's rational. Let's bring like stats or how this should go. But really, you're not dealing with a rational being. Human beings are not. We're emotional. We're instinct.
Instinctive.
We're instinctive.
Yeah.
And could you imagine yourself when you're also stressed with all these things? You're not rational. It's just not how it works. You can't deal with somebody this way.
Yeah, I wrote a quote here somewhere where in a negotiation or whatever you're dealing with, when you're dealing with other humans, positivity in the conversation creates mental agility in both you and the other party. And with mental agility, it opens up negotiation. It opens up dialect, and you can listen and understand what the other party's trying to accomplish, the underlying issues, right? And by understanding that, you can sort of give and take and save the hostage.
Exactly. Yeah, I agree. And it comes back to any person in sales have heard that before. When you speak, smile.
Yeah.
Like if you're on the phone with the client, if you're on the phone with whoever, smile, and it's going to be a lot easier. Like your voice, your tone changes.
Yeah.
And it's the same way for this. Like you would think that negotiating with a terrorist, it wouldn't be that. You'd be like super strict to the point and all that. But no, you have to get him to trust you. It has to be playful.
Yeah. 100%. Chapter 1 was actually a very short chapter. And Mr. Voss does go a lot into his negotiation tactics. Chapter 2 goes into more details and actually provides strategies on how to negotiate, which I found very useful. And I've used one of those in one of my client meetings, right? And, when we're negotiating fees or interest rates, right? It's like you are asking open-ended questions where the other person has a hard time answering. And by doing that, you're putting almost the onus on them.
Absolutely. And what I think one of the best reasons that he probably opened up with this chapter being Be a Mirror is that it's still a theory that is widely known, right?
Yeah.
Some of the stuff that he puts out there, you read the chapter, like the title, and you're like, really? No, that can't be. But this one, Being a Mirror, we've heard before. There's a bunch of different ways to do a mirror. There are speech patterns, body language, vocabulary, tempo, your tone of voice, like everything that you do in a conversation, you can be a mirror.
Yeah.
For example, and I've tried this before, but like probably not going to work now because we're talking about it. But if you're you want to get somebody to listen to you more in like 20 seconds about what you're about to say, so you slow down before and you lean forward, and this person automatically, without realizing it, will lean forward.
Right.
And it is proven that if you're leaning forward while somebody is talking, you're more receptive, right? So by using the mirror even before you're making your point, you're able to do it.
Yeah.
Or if you come at me and you're ecstatic, you're like something's gone wrong, you're like, your mind is at a different level.
Right.
If I slow down the tempo, if I slow down the conversation, you will slow down, and then you will be more open to what I'll have to say.
So when you slow down the conversation, are you actually lowering your voice as well to get them to really listen in to what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
That's
yes. And like I'll give you a perfect example of this. I've been MC at a few weddings before.
Yeah.
And every time I go at a wedding and the MC starts talking, like everybody talks at a wedding. Like it's very hard to get the attention of the person, of the people out there, because they're drunk, they're having fun, they're with people they haven't seen in a long time. But so what I always do is I talk, then I stop, and then I lower my voice, because people that actually want to listen are going to have to listen more because my voice is super low. Plus, and then everybody else will follow suit. But if you're trying to talk over them, it's not going to work. And it's the same thing as if you're having a negotiation with somebody and you're just trying to just put your point forward and going over and trying to be louder. The other person's just going to get louder too. So slow down.
Slow down. Talk in almost silence, where people need to actually put the effort into listening to what you're saying.
Absolutely. And take pauses.
So there's 3 types of voices that he mentions in this book. One, the late night FM DJ voice, where you talk calm and slow, what you were talking about. And it's used selectively to make a point. Playful, positive vibe, which should be the default voice, is where you're creating positivity in your voice, right, to get them to be more agile in their negotiations. And then the direct and assertive, which is rarely used, if ever, because that might sort of push them away, right? And when people are in a positive frame of mind, I mentioned this, they are more likely to collaborate and problem solve, because essentially you're dealing with a human being. Absolutely. They want something from this. You're trying to understand what the underlying goal is here, right? And that's what you're trying to accomplish. And this is what he talks about here.
The playful voice is also the voice that you should use 90% of the time.
Yeah.
So this is the voice that you get everything, the conversation going. You gain trust. You generate info, because your whole goal is to get as much info as possible. And then once you're getting to a point that you need to get your point across, you go down to the
Right,
FMDJ voice.
Mm-hmm.
If you would have asked me before, I would have like which one of the three is the most important. I would have probably said the assertive voice, because I always believe that in negotiation, you needed to be in control.
Yeah.
Like I need to set the tempo, set the pace, so that they answer to me.
Right.
He puts it the other way around. You want them to be in control. You want them to feel in control, because if they're not in control, they're not going to open up.
Exactly.
Right? So they need to be in control. The person you're negotiating against will feel like this is working for them. Then you're able to start with the mirror. You're able to do all of this, and they will open up and give you what you want.
Yeah. And one of the worst things you can do is rush through it, because when you're rushing through it, they feel like they're winning the battle at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But here's the thing. I just used the word battle, and he clearly mentions in this book that we cannot look at a negotiation as a battle. You have to look at it as a conversation.
Yes.
All right. And you have to listen and understand what the underlying issues are. Mm-hmm. So battle is the wrong word. We talked about mirroring. And just to give you an idea how important mirroring is, a waitress or a waiter will get 70% more tip if they are to use the mirror strategy than to use the reinforcement strategy.
Like
70%, yeah. 70% more tip. So basically what you're doing is you're actually paraphrasing, but using the same words they used, or the most important words they use. You're trying to connect that emotional, like when you're trying to find that emotion in them, and then you're working with that emotion. If they're sad, you show a little bit more empathy. If they're happy, you show more happiness, And if they're using positive words, you use positive words, right?
This is another thing that when I read it, at first I felt like it didn't make sense. Because if I tell a person, a client, how nice they are, how good they look, or how much fun we're having, you would think that it would help more. But the mirror technique gets you more in tune with them, right? And then when you're in tune with somebody, you feel connected.
Yeah.
And the client is going to give you more tip if they feel connected with you.
Yeah. Let them speak. Listen.
Absolutely.
The more they speak, the more you understand what they're looking for, right? Let anybody you're talking to, whether you're negotiating for a property, you're negotiating for interest rates, or you're negotiating to buy whatever in Chinatown, New York, right? Let them speak. Understand understand what they want at the end of the day. I was in the Dominican Republic, and it's negotiations all day.
All day.
You can drop something from $60 to like $10 in 5 minutes if you just negotiate long enough.
Yes,
right?
And that's it. You have to take your time.
Exactly.
And you have to make them like there's an urgency to close it. I did the same thing. Like I was in Morocco last year with my wife, and we went into Marrakesh, which is one of the biggest like markets in the world for haggling and stuff like that. And it's just, at first we didn't negotiate. We tried to, it didn't work. But then when you start listening to what they're saying, because they're all saying the same thing, so we got better the more we got in. But it's like it's a different world, and you have to listen and take it slow. Like you're not going to go from 80 to 10 in 1 minute.
There's a mention in this book when he compares the FBI negotiation tactics to Harvard Law, and you have to be a master negotiator. This is brilliant people, right? They're going at it with each other.
Very good point.
Yeah,
it's not just you and I, right?
Exactly.
Like it's like people that are trained in that.
Exactly, and ultimately it came down to the FBI doesn't use much logic, but they use a lot of emotion, whereas in Harvard Law, a lot of it is logic, right? And sometimes when you're dealing with an irrational person, a person that's in distress, holding somebody hostage, they're not thinking logically. They have a goal in mind. And if you talk to them with emotion to sort of diffuse the situation by showing empathy, you're more likely to get to the result that you want.
Exactly.
Right? And that's the difference that I understood from the FBI versus the law, the Harvard Law School. So tactical empathy is understanding the feelings and mindset of the other party at the moment, and also hearing what is behind those feelings so that you can increase your influence in all the moments that follow, right? So when you closely follow somebody's face, gestures, and the tone of voice, your brain begins to align with theirs. And then that's when you can actually not take it over, but understand what the underlying issues are.
And it's like it's twofold. It's you that's starting to be aligned with him, but it's also him that's starting to be aligned with you.
Subconsciously.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So whatever you're saying then resonates a little bit more than before because you're aligned. You talk the same way.
So that strategy is called tactical empathy. We're in chapter 3 now. And then you mentioned before we started this labeling.
Well, yes. So labeling essentially is, let's just say, you're like, we'll use the bank robbery example.
Yeah.
So the bank robbers are in there. It's a super long negotiation, taking a day to do it. But while you're negotiating, you're trying to label to them what the negatives are. So the labeling, for example, is I understand that you don't want to go to prison here. I understand that you're scared of dying. I understand it. So you're putting a label on how they're feeling.
Right.
And the more you're doing it, you're like the negative is not as negative before because you reaffirm it and reaffirm it. And then obviously this person now understands, like he realizes that you understand you're on the same page. And also the more you label a negative, the less it can be used against you because it doesn't bring in a positive because obviously going to prison sucks, but it reinforces that you're in there. And then once you label things, you're and you're in tune with it, people start to feel to open up because you do understand.
Yeah.
You don't want to go to prison. No, I don't want to go to prison. Well, and then you finish up with an open-ended question, and then they go on and on and on and give you the information you want.
Have you watched Money Heist?
No.
It's a movie on Netflix, and there's this master negotiator going against this absolutely brilliant guy robbing a bank. Anyway, it's a must-watch because this book sort of touches a lot of the things that not the cop was using, but the one on the other side was using. So it was a very dangerous position for the cops. And it was this book reminded me of that because the entire movie is about the negotiation between the both parties. So labeling, what I have written here is validating someone's emotions and their concerns by expressing it to them.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
It seems like, it sounds like, it looks like. And once you spot the emotion, basically you're highlighting it.
And like I love what you read in there. Like it seems like, it looks like.
Exactly.
That's what he mentions. He mentions in the book, never say, I feel that you are.
Yeah.
Remove the I because it's about the other person. It's never about you.
So yeah, that's great. Also, there's two layers in people's emotions. One that is laying out the behavior on the surface, and the other one is the underlying emotion, right? What they're really feeling. So what they're showing you versus what they're hiding from you. And then the more you talk to them, the more you understand what it is they're hiding from you, the emotions that are really burning them on the inside, and you go on from there. So once you address the underlying emotions by labeling them, labeling the negatives will diffuse them, while labeling the positives will reinforce them, right? I understand if you say that it looks like you're trying to make more money during a bank robbery, well, guess what? It's like, yeah, I want to make more money. That's why I'm here.
Mm-hmm.
But then if you say, it sounds like you're scared to go to prison, then now they're thinking about prison. So it's sort of diffusing them.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. No.
Good.
One of the things chapter 4 mentions, beware of yes and master no. And the first thing he mentions is that the yes is not the end goal here.
Yeah.
Because you don't know what a yes is. How many times have you said yes in your life and it meant nothing? Mm-hmm. You know, there are different types of yes. There are 3 different types of yeses. The first one is a counterfeit yes. Okay. So the counterfeit yes is just, you want to come having dinner with us tonight? Yeah, let me look into it. No, that's a counterfeit yes. You're just trying to get rid of the person.
Right.
Or if you have a salesperson that's really tacky and trying to, run over you, well, you just say yes to get rid of him, and then later on you cancel.
Yeah.
What you're thriving for is the commitment, yes.
Yeah.
And the commitment, yes, takes a lot of time, and it's by getting a lot of no's. And the no part is what we're scared of. Typically, we're taught that if somebody says no, it's a bad thing.
Right.
But if we're negotiating, and I need to have a no from you to know where you stand, right? Like if I say something and you say no, I can't do that. Well, then it just means it's not no, the negotiation is done. It's wait, I'm not comfortable with this, and then take it up from there. It's just an objection, and if you don't know what the objection is, you can't move forward. You can't get that info.
Exactly. Yeah. So it could allow real issues to be brought forward.
Exactly. You actually need it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Look for the no. Actually,
It's we do that all the time, right? Especially when you get invited to go out for dinner, birthday party, wedding, whatever the case may be. You know, it's like, I just don't feel like doing this today. I just don't feel like going today. And then you'll say, I'll let you know. Right? That's a counterfeit no.
That's the counterfeit yes.
That's a counterfeit yes.
Yes.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah.
Yeah. So like it's just a way of, not to like getting rid of you, right?
Yeah.
Like I was at a wedding this weekend. Okay, I've said yes, we'll do something, probably 10 times.
Bro.
The morning after, I'm like, probably not gonna happen.
No.
Right?
No.
I hope you're not listening to this now, but you know, like it like it's.
But it's like seeing somebody at the grocery store.
Yes means nothing, right? Like yes means nothing, unless it's a commitment, because everybody says yes 100 times a day.
Unless you say yes, I'll be there. Let's schedule something right now.
Bingo.
That's the commitment.
A lot different. Yes, let's sign the contract.
Okay. So saying no makes the speaker feel safe, secure, and in control.
Like
so
you,
trigger it.
Like the other person.
Yes, the party, right? The other party. That's why is now a bad time to talk is always better than do you have a few minutes to talk?
That's something that I will change now.
100%. Yeah, and this is why I wrote this down here. Is now a bad time to talk is always better than do you have a few minutes to talk? So if a potential business partner is ignoring you, contact them with a clear and concise, no-oriented question that suggests that you are ready to walk away. Have you given up on this project? Works wonders. Okay? And I do that all the time. Are you still in the market?
Yes.
Right? It's a yes or no question. Are you still in the market? Yes or no? If they say no, that's it. I'm not wasting my time anymore.
Bingo. And at one point, sometimes, like, we're trained to go after clients and never quit, but sometimes they're just wasting your time. So by saying a question like this, you're either say the other person has to answer, yes, I'm still in the market, or no, all right, go in the delete pile, I move on.
Exactly.
Right? And sometimes it forces them also to, they've been ignoring you for a couple times. It's a tendency we have now. We have 100 emails a day that are coming in, so you don't answer to all of them. And the problem with that is that you never know where the other party stands because they don't answer. Yeah. You cannot not answer this email. Right. Are you still in the market, or have you given up on the project? The word, the phrase that he uses. This is brilliant. Like you have to answer that. Exactly. And it's if they haven't given up on the project, it's also going to be they're going to regret. They're gonna feel like oh shit, no, I forgot to answer, or they feel obligated to get back to you now. So.
Exactly. Yeah. That's what chapter 4 was about. Chapter 5. Would you have any?
Well, and this is chapter 5. Like pretty much triggered the 2 words that immediately transformed the negotiation. I have to admit, I had no clue what those 2 words were before. Yeah. And the 2 words are "that's right." Yeah. Okay, so that's right, and he makes a big distinction between "you're right." Okay, and the "you're right." If I say "you're right," it's you. I'm not committed to that. I'm just saying that you're right. I'm probably not happy that you're right. Right? I'd like to be right. I'd like to be in control. Yeah. But if you're able to make me say "that's right," then I'm saying that I agree with what we are saying. It's from me. And getting somebody to say "that's right" is the best way to move on in negotiation because of that.
Yeah. And one of the best tactics to get those is by using labeling. Right? When you're asking those open-ended questions.
Yes.
right? Like it sounds like you're upset. That's right.
Yeah, it sounds like you're upset. Is you're labeling my emotion.
Yeah.
And I'm saying that's right.
Yeah, I am upset, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, that's yeah, labeling I think was the biggest one. Even when you're paraphrasing by sort of mirroring, that's another way of getting the that's right. So they have here so mirroring rather than argue with so and try to separate so and so from the war damages. This person would listen and repeat back what this person said, right? Or when you paraphrase, repeats what the other person is saying back to him in his own words.
In his yeah.
Okay, so mirroring is you're basically repeating back using their words. Paraphrasing is when you're repeating what they're saying in your own words. Both work.
Like it means the same thing, but I guess if you can't always mirror, right?
No,
Because at one point you're gonna catch on. Like if I always repeat what you're saying, you're gonna know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
But paraphrasing is a little bit different. The one thing though with mirror and paraphrasing and labeling and all of that, it takes some practice. I don't think we can read this book and then tomorrow morning being expert negotiators.
Yeah.
Because it's an ongoing thing, right?
Yeah.
It's not like we're prepared and then bang, I just say it. It doesn't work this way.
No,
It's going to change.
Yeah.
And he used the example as every tactic is like an instrument that you're playing, right? I'm very good at labeling, meaning I'm very good at the piano or whatever. But they're always all together. It's a full song that's playing. It's a full symphony.
Yeah, he
right?
does. He does go into detail on how. So here, when he talks about mirroring, no, not mirroring. Sorry, when he talks about how to best negotiate something, written down. So use the late night FM DJ voice, right? That's the slow and steady.
That's the voice that you have.
Yeah, and then start with phrases like "I'm sorry" to show empathy.
Yes.
Right?
For sure. I agree.
And then use the mirror tactic, which works magic. And then use silence effectively, right? Let them speak. Just don't say anything. Listen. And then repeat.
And then repeat.
So that's one of the examples he did here. Obviously, it depends who you're dealing with too, right? Like you're not, if somebody is using an assertive voice and you need to sort of try to find a way to calm him down. And by showing empathy, that might help.
Yes. Yeah, empathy is the one thing that people don't realize how important it is.
Yeah.
Empathy changes everything.
But in a very stressful situation, like he said it, he's been doing this for 2 decades. And before every negotiation, he still gets butterflies. He's still scared.
Well, and the other thing that's mentioned in the book and I love is, you and I, when we negotiate every day, if we fail, we lose a sale, commission is reduced. Yeah. If this guy fails, somebody dies.
Well, he's on a different playing field.
Exactly. So the skills need to be on another level. It needs to be perfect. They're rehearsed. Yeah. That's what he does all year long. That's all he does, and he's become an expert at it. Like just the fact that somebody dies when you screw up.
The best in the world.
Best in the world.
I can't believe they're there meeting him.
Let's not talk about it.
Yeah. So I mean that's it for the first 5 chapters.
Yes, that was part 1.
Yep. We're going to do part 2, which is chapter 6 to 10.
6 to 10, exactly.
6 to 10. Yeah. And there's a few topics that he covers here. I'm excited to finish off this book. There's another author on this one called Tal Raz. So he covers big ideas and great stories in this book as well.
Well, and he's the Tal Raz is also the guy that he co-authored Never Eat Alone. Not sure if you've ever read that book.
Never Eat Alone?
Never Eat Alone.
I have the audio version.
Super good book.
Okay.
Yeah. Like it's not just Chris. Like Tal Raz is it's probably, I assume it's Chris's ideas.
Yeah.
But Raz is probably the one that wrote the whole thing. Probably a better writer, right? So.
Yeah. I don't know much about Tal Raz. I think I'm gonna put that on my. I'm gonna use that as homework this week and know more about Tal. I was really focused on Chris Voss this week.
Well, it's hard not to be.
Yeah.
The guy's so cool, right?
Yeah.
So, I guess that's it for today.
Yep.
Next week, we're going to do part 2. We're going to also do a full book review. And Marty and Christian are going to be back from their seminar. And they're going to cover the book, The Alchemist, which is another phenomenal book. I've read that. Super good. Super good. People are going to learn a lot.
It's fictional, but it's still a great book with plenty of lessons.
Exactly, and I don't mind that. Like I don't mind somebody that uses fictional ideas.
Yeah.
Like The Richest Man in Babylon, for example. It's all fictional, but the lessons are there.
Yeah.
If it's taught the right way, it's super good.
Yeah. 100%. So great first 5 chapters. I've learned a lot. I've used some of his tactics in my business. You have as well.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm excited for the next 6, for the next 5 chapters.
Same here.
Awesome.
All right. Well,
We'll
like
see you
usual,
next week, yeah.
yes, like usual, just like, subscribe, leave us a comment, and we'd like to know what book you want to read next. That's the one thing. This one here was recommended to me by somebody else, which I bought, and let's do that again.
Yeah, this book was gifted to me by someone, one of our partners at the firm, and I never actually read it until you brought it up, and I'm like, oh, I have this book. So it was a good opportunity to read it, and honestly, I wish I could have read it sooner.
It would have changed probably the way that I act.
I like it. It's actually becoming one of my favorite books.
Same here.
Okay.
All right. Well, Rami, we'll see you next week.
Yes, sir.